Joe, I was just curious your perspective on the 2 point play yesterday, just kind of what went into that and just, the communication before the play.
Um, yeah, look, we always kind of talk going into the game, having ideas of the type of 2 point plays we want. There's obviously different type of ones going into the game. Is there gotta have it 2 point plays? Is it hey just is the one from the two? We had a couple of other we had a couple plays in mind downside of the red. We showed one look and they called the timeout and we talked about if we felt like this other one would have been better and we communicated and Josh loved the look. It's obviously one that that I want back, that we'll all want back, and ball in our best players' hands, good things are going to happen. I just got to make sure I'm looking at it, making sure I'm putting him in the best position to have success, on that play, and but it shouldn't have got to that. It shouldn't have got to that play.
Kind of to follow up on that last part, just, what this offense is capable of. What was Philadelphia doing that kind of kept you guys from scoring until late in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're obviously a really good defense. They're Super Bowl defense, playoff defense, right? But we're a playoff offense also, and we weren't efficient last night, staying ahead of the schedules, and we had a lot of drives that stalled. Once we got to the logo and the fringe area, and we had some opportunities once we got in the red zone, and we had a turnover. We take a sack, and we left a lot of points out on the board, and against good defenses, and you're going to have to sustain those drives and be able to stay ahead of this chains and to be able to get those points. And look, they're obviously really good, do a really good job, up front, have an elite pass rush. And when you're living off schedule, it makes it tough. But I didn't think we didn't do the simple well. And there's no reason we should ever go quarters, much less halves, much less three quarters, not scoring points. And so obviously yesterday was not acceptable, and that always will start and end with me.
When there is a performance that you feel is not acceptable, or you mentioned just the not doing the simple, what is the difference between that happening in week 17 versus happening, earlier in the season, like the timeline for making corrections and everything?
Yeah, I think it's you obviously never want them to happen, but you can always look at them from two perspectives. You can look at it from a perspective of, okay, hey, or stuff showed up, and I'd much rather it show up now than show up in 2 weeks, and us have this feeling that we're having right now that ends our season. And so, again, you don't ever want it to happen, but we have a lot of time on task to hope that we can self-correct and making sure that our process is in the right direction. Did we handle the past week the right way? Was the play calls, was our execution, were we putting players in position to have success? But I think whether it's week 2 or week 17, you don't ever want it to happen. But when it happens, making sure that you're handling it the right way. We have the right character of the guys that I think their approach and their mindset. I felt like I didn't have to say a lot today, and they knew kind of how we played. But it was to get to where we ultimately want to be. I think we had to have the meetings we had today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, I want to ask you a little bit about protection schemes. And when you're facing an elite pass rush, whether that's from the edge or, interior like they had yesterday, you have to make decisions, right? 5-man versus 6-man. It's easy for us to look at and go, well, if you go 6-man, that's one less guy in the route, right? You have 5-man, that's one more guy in the route. From your perspective, how much do you have to think about that when it comes to even, stress points along the offensive line, I guess you'd say, and all the different things that go into how many guys are out in the route and what that does to the quarterback and how that changes the perspective from him? I'm hoping my question makes sense when you have to think about all that.
Yeah, it makes a lot. And I think there's a lot, obviously a lot jam packed into that one. And some of that could be a schematic, advantage for me, kind of what, some of my thought process. But look, the reality of it is, whether you're in 5-man or 6-man pro, there's always ways to break it down. There's always going to be one-on-one matchups. You can try to get slides, and there's different types of D lines that you're going against. Is it elite on the edge? Is it elite inside? What are the different ways that you can help with that? I think sometimes there's, in certain situations, sometimes quarterbacks, you want to have a healthy mix of both. And when we know our issues and our answers, when you're in 5-man pro and you look like you're caught off guard, that's when it looks like bad football, and that's the stuff that we got to fight against. But I think when you're going against a really good D line, sometimes 5-man and 6-man might not necessarily make the difference, as opposed to, hey, when they are bringing the linebackers, are we throwing hot? Do we have the halfbacks in protection? There's a difference of the 5-man and 6-man from that perspective compared to, hey, do you have a tight end chipping that might help an edge rush or something like that? So there's obviously way more into it that, probably in the off season I can kind of dive a little more into it with a lot more football to go. But, um, you know, uh, it is something that we look at every single week of seeing, hey, what can we do? There's a lot of times we're 6-man pro that get the 5-man pro, and vice versa. And, so I think that the biggest thing is to make sure you got a healthy mix of the two.
I think if you go back to the New England game, I believe I'm right. I think you even have a 7-man pro in the first play that went down to Brandon. I mean, I know you guys didn't connect on the pass, but in that situation, I mean, you're scheming something up, but you also have a receiver that you're going to count on to beat 1-on-1 too, right? Which he did on that play. But I mean, how much of that goes into it? Hey, if we're going to have less guys, we got to have a guy also that can make sure he can beat 1-on-1 like Brandon did on that play.
Yeah, the more you keep in protection, um, the less you have in routes, but the more you have in protection, if they aren't bringing a lot, you might have 2 or 3 guys out in routes, and they might have, 5, 6, 7 guys, in coverage. And so there's a healthy mix of it all. You don't want to live in any one. You want to make sure that you're mixing it up, and you want to make sure you're calling it the right times it's working. And we have a lot of the tools in our toolbox, and making sure that we're getting to it when we need to. And but at the end of the day, we don't want to be throwing hot.
Right.
There's a time and a place where I do think I say that there's a time and a place where you're okay with throwing hot, but certain situational third downs, you don't want to be living in a hot game. And so some of those things I gotta do a better job. We have to do a better job of cleaning that up to be more efficient, where we're not living in those worlds.
Thanks. I appreciate all that.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe. How are you today?
Good. How you doing, bud?
I'm well, thank you. Actually, Sal just brought up the play to Brandon in the Patriots game, the one that you guys did not connect on. And then there was also one in the Browns game. But yesterday he made, a couple big catches for you guys, especially down the field. He's played in the league for so long, he doesn't need to convince anybody that he can play. Obviously, the production has been there for a long time. But him being able to do that, what does that allow your offense to do? And what does that open up, I guess, in the intermediate and short passing game?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason we obviously brought him here, and it wasn't just to open it up and stretch it down the field. I know he's had some of those opportunities. There's so much more to Brandin Cooks' game, in the locker room, out on the field, all of that. It was good to obviously connect on that was a huge play, hoping that it would be a spark. It obviously, it wasn't early in the game, and ended up being later in the game. But his energy, his juice just on the football field, regardless of whether he's running it deep or running a 5-yard route, he helps us when he's out on the football field. He's doing dirt, he's doing things in the run game. So he's, he was a huge get for us. And obviously we weren't connecting on that in, the last few weeks. And I know, but his approach hasn't changed, and my faith and confidence in him, didn't waver. And you can clearly show that Josh didn't either. And he had an opportunity yesterday, and made a lot of plays. And I obviously didn't translate to the scoreboard, but you hope that it's something that we continue to build upon.
And then he has so much success over the course of his career. Tyrell is still a player who's very young, and the opportunities, hasn't been a ton of them in the actual passing game. So for him to step up the way he did yesterday, just how cool is that on a personal level to see somebody who puts in the work make a big play in a big moment like that?
Yeah, I mean that's Shaves, right? That's you feel like when the ball goes his way, good things happen, right? It's I know that's one Josh would love to probably have back. I think he'll be the first to admit he kind of bypassed Gabe on a little easy completion, but it shows the trust he has in Shaves to be able to give him an opportunity, and Shaves go up and make an incredible ball on an incredible corner. And but that's kind of who Shaves is. He kind of makes football plays. And I know he wasn't a big free agent gets, or he wasn't a high draft pick, but he just goes out there and does his job. And he's accountable to the offense. And I think the 10 guys in the huddle with him are so appreciative of him, and he just deserves all the opportunities that he gets.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe. Obviously a frustrating game for Josh yesterday. He looked pretty frustrated at the end of it. And you go back and you look at some of as I'm sure you guys did on tape. Were you alarmed at all at how many plays it felt like maybe there were some open guys that Josh just didn't see?
Look, I think if there's ever those that show up on tape, I got to make sure I'm doing a better job throughout the week. Um, you know, the intent of the plays, the thought process. Sometimes there's guys that are open that might not be the first read, and I think from just from a big picture view, it's like, hey, why didn't the ball go there? Was there maybe some opportunities yesterday that I think maybe the ball could go there? Yes, but I also don't have guys rushing in my face, and it's easy for me to kind of see it from the press box, but. I'm always going to trust Josh. You guys know that, and if the ball's not, if he's not finding completions, then I got to make sure I'm doing a better job of the intent of installing or calling it. And I have no faith that me and him are on the same page. I have no question that me and him are on the same page. That to get to where we need to be, we're locked at the hip.
And then you take a look at, the sacks this year, how many times he's been hit, and you start to think about, week to week, what's kind of the cause of this. And I found it interesting going back and listening to the game. Tom Brady was pretty critical of Josh pre-snap. Has he been doing a good enough job, maybe setting protections and all the responsibilities before the snap to maybe mitigate some of the hits or sacks that he's taken?
Yeah, yeah, I think Josh does an elite job in the protection game, and like there's obviously some sacks that you look at the third down, Josh running around, it's kind of same thing happened with the Browns game, that sack is on him, and he'll admit that, through and through. There's some that, there's hits that you're going to have to sit in the pocket. And look, he took a huge hit on the big throw to Cooksey, and you don't want that your quarterback getting hit. And I got to make sure I'm doing a good enough job of where those aren't showing up. But I think Josh is doing a great job pre-snap, getting the protection when they need to get to. If there is some protection, there's always going to be some protections broken down, and when they are, I got to make sure that hey, is it offensive line? Is it running back? Is it quarterback? Is it scheme? What is the why? Making sure that we're solving that in game, because once stuff shows up on tape, it's something that's going to continue to show up. And but I think Josh is doing a great job pre-snap. It's now about making sure we're making the decisions, we're protecting it up front, and we're all on the same page up front. To be able to then get the ball where it needs to get to.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, Joe, picking up kind of where Matt left off, what do you attribute the rise in sacks this year to? So different than last year. Like, why do you think Josh has taken so many sacks this season?
I mean, I think it's a combination of there's a combination. I don't think there's any one reason. I think we can start with play calling, right? Like, just put it on me. I think there's a lot of things. There's no, just like last season, you'd say, hey, why is there are we the least sacked team? It wasn't strictly only because of the offensive line. There's a lot of different elements, and so I don't think you can say, hey, we're getting sacked and that's just only on the offensive line, or it's only on this. When you look at all of one of our sacks yesterday was we had a sack fumble on the naked that with the Josh, whether he threw it or so some of those things that kind of go putting down his sacks. But yeah, he's getting hit, and if he's getting hit, it's because I'm allowing him to get hit, right? And so I think the biggest thing is, regardless of looking at the why, what's the difference of last year, is I got to make sure I'm doing a better job of not putting guys in positions that they shouldn't be in.
I asked you this last week, but I wanted to ask it again just because Sean said that Josh's soreness in his foot came up again yesterday. Did you change at all your play calling or anything like that because Josh was kind of feeling that injury a bit more during the game?
I think it was a little, maybe yesterday was a little different, once you did, he was hobbling a little bit, but once the adrenaline got going again, look at the last drive of the game, he's running away from Jalen Phillips, right? So it was just constant communication with him about how he's feeling, how it's going. Once Josh is out there, I gotta just trust that if he's out there, he's 100%, and good things will happen.
So Sean kind of talked about how sometimes you have to protect Josh from himself in a way, just because, like you said, he's going to want to be out there. He wants to play clearly. Like, do you at all I know you just said, like, you assume he's 100% if he's out there, but do you at all have to factor that in, being like, I might not want to call this play because I know he's kind of dealing with this right now, even if he's like, I'm good, like that sort of thing?
No, absolutely. Like, and look, we got to have the constant communication, but you also got to see what you know with your own eyes, how people look. And unfortunately, I've been with Josh for so long that, you know, just by some answers from him, I know what that means. And I know when he's in a good place. I know if he's hurting. I know if he feels fine. And you know, but you know, the indications as we were going yesterday is he was good to go. And you know, and I just got to continue to do a better job putting him in those positions where he's not having to worry about those things.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Hey Joe, I think we talked about this some around this time last year, but you know, going into week 18, there are some guys with incentives on the line. James Cook could secure the rushing title if he, you know, stays where he's at. I know you guys want to win the game first of all, and starters are still being determined, but how does that impact what you do from your standpoint when you know guys are playing for some of those things?
Yeah, I'd be lying to you if like at this point in the week, I really don't know about any of those right now, especially coming off of, you know, the performance we just had. I want to make sure that our process is where it needs to be going in, you know, this week, and you know, that we're doing the right things and we're thinking about the right things and the right mindset and finding ways to get a win this week. Like I said, I don't know, you know, Coach McDermott's mindset or anything like that, but I'm assuming we're having the mindset that we're going out there and we're going to do what we have to do. And if I find out about guys' incentives or anything like that, and it can help us win, but I have to call the game with the mindset of putting our guys in position to win, and everything else will take care of itself.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yes. Yes. Good afternoon. George Radney, Challenger Community News. Quick question for you, Coach. Is what does Brandin Cooks bring to the team? I noticed that you guys seem to try to get him into the game right away. Get a ball thrown to him early in these last few games. What is it that Brandin Cooks brings to the team?
I mean, I think off the field, he brings the professionalism and the work ethic and the approach that you want to be around. He has great energy, doesn't care about anything else besides trying to find ways to help our team win football games, and doesn't care if he's out on the field and running 100 yards at full speed to open somebody else up, or if he's going to get an opportunity. That's all he cares about. And that helps when you bring in a vet of his that's been doing it for as long as he can, or as long as he has. And you know, he brings a lot of juice. He has big playability. The ball in his hands, good things happen, and I gotta continue to find ways to get the ball in his hands.
Great. Thanks, Coach. Good luck this coming week.
Thank you.